Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Well, welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, show number 76. I'm your host, Dave. Vialet is on travel today. Mark Earlix is an internationally known healer, intuitive, author, and ordained priest who was born in Chicago, Illinois. At the age of 20, Mark was given a profound gift that dramatically transformed his life and purpose forever. Mark has been initiated into two orders of Gnosticism. At the core of his teachings lies not only the awakening of the divinity and wellness within all, but also the experiential understanding of what is going on beyond the philosophical level. This understanding ensures real transformation and wellness of both mind and body. Mark has appeared on numerous television and radio stations across the country and has served on the board of directors for the Mind, Body, and Spirit Foundation. Mark is a sought-after public speaker and published author. He published the book Creator, The Revelation of Healing Within Yourself and Others in 2004, Take My Life in 2006, and Awaken the Healer Within in 2010. His new audiobook, Awaken the Healer Within, with a workbook included, has been released through Nightingale Conan. Mark also offers a series of meditation and spiritual exercise CDs on his website, www.Mark Earlix, that's spelled MarkEarlix.com. Well, welcome, Mark. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We have lots of fascinating guests, and I'm sure you're going to be in one of the luminaries in that. So looking forward to it. So I always like to start out with your background. So how did you discover and develop your healing gifts, and what was what you talked about, the profound gift that hit you at the age of 20?
Well, I was at a very direful time in my life, and I had just gotten back from Vietnam, and physically, emotionally, mentally, everything was distraught. And then I went into, I was just traveling around the country, and I ended up in California. There was a Gnostic organization there. I joined it, and I'm still in it. And same with a few thousand other people. But regardless of that, I was told when being accepted into this order to go across the street into this little chapel and kneel before the Mary Shrine. And I had no religious upbringing whatsoever, totally void of that in my life. So I knocked on the door for this little chapel, and his brother answered the door, and he said, "Yeah, come on in." There was no one else in there. And he said, "Anything else?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Upstairs, they told me to come downstairs and kneel before the Mary Shrine. And so I'm here." And I asked him where the Mary Shrine was. And he pointed over in some corner, and there was a table I saw with a red candle on it, and a rose. And I said, "Okay, great. And he said, "Anything else?" I said, "Yeah. How do you kneel? I've never done it in my life." And so he says, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah." So I went over to the corner. He led me over there, and he said, "This is how you kneel." And he thought I was, spunking him or something, who knows what. And he says, "Anything?" He didn't even ask me if there was anything else. So I was kneeling there, not knowing what to do. And on the wall was this picture of a woman with a white veil on her. And that was translucent. You can almost see through it. And it looked like the picture was looking at me. So I kept turning it around, moving it. And I picked the petals off the roses, that were there, and I put them in my pocket so no one would know. I blew out the candle. I lit it again, blew it out, lit it again. And I had nothing else to do there. I didn't know. I was bored. And so I started getting tired, and I figured, okay, when he left, I heard the door creak, so I can put my head down and take a nap. And as I started to put my head down, even before it touched the table, I found myself looking at, it was like in my mind somewhere, and I was conscious too, or semi-conscious, and I found myself looking at this. It looked like an old English countryside, but a huge maze that went on forever all around me. And I was fascinated with it. And then after a moment or two of seeing that, I was somewhere in that maze in this little grassy knoll area, and not knowing what it was or anything else. And in this little area was a green park bench. It looked like the old Chicago park benches with the ornate wrought iron holding it together and thin slats of green wood. And there was a road in front of me that was about maybe 15, 20 feet across. And it was a brown earthen road, and it led into, to my left, it led into what looked like an alcove going into a forest with dark green. You couldn't even see into it. And then to the right was a monastic type structure, handmade stone structure, a small structure. And the ramp door to that came down, and a procession of brown robed monks came out of it, 4 deep and 10 long. So there were 40 of them.
Uh-huh.
They started passing me. You couldn't see their faces. Their hoods were over their heads. Their arms were in the sleeves. The hassocks were all the way down, where you couldn't see their feet. And they all passed me and started going into this alcove that was leading into the forest. And the 3rd deep one in the last row stepped out, took his arms out of his sleeves, his hood back, and he approached me and he told me his name. And I told him my name, and we ended up somehow sitting on the bench facing each other. And he started asking me questions about healing, and information started coming to me to answer him of what he wanted to know, to draw stuff out of me. And I started asking him questions, and he would tell me more information. Then the procession came back, and he went back into his place, and they went into the monastic structure, and the ramp door went up. Then someone tapped me on the shoulder, and I just swung my head around physically, and there was this funky looking guy there saying, "Hey, look, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm here to get you something to eat and show you where you're going to be sleeping." I said, "Wow." And so walked outside, and I had gotten into that little chapel area around 12:30 in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
And I looked at my watch, and it was 5:30.
Wow. Wow.
So just blew me away, as they used to say.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was the greatest hallucination I ever had in my life, or a dream, or whatever it was. And it was that next morning, around 6 a.m, I didn't know if I was going to stay at this place or leave and start hitchhiking around the country or doing whatever. And no one else was out on the street, except for maybe about 50, 60 feet away was this street bum who was up to my forehead, balding, tattered clothing, greasy, and just short. And he was coming up to me real briskly. And as he did, I figured, this guy's either going to knife me, shoot me, say something vile, or do something to me. And so I started puffing myself up, in the macho way.
Yeah.
And I was ready to hit him as he kept getting closer and closer to me. And so he came right up to me, and he was looking at me, and he said, "Put your hands on my head." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Put your hands on my head." And the first thing that came to my mind was, I'm going to be embarrassed if anyone sees me putting my hands on this greasy head of the street bum. but I felt compelled to do it. And I reached up, put my hands on his head, and immediately I started feeling a sensation coming out of my hands that lasted for maybe 5 or 7 seconds. And I had no idea what it was. It was blood pressure, the heat of the day starting to happen at 6 in the morning or whatever. And it stopped. And he immediately said, "Take your hands down." And I felt compelled to do it. I took my hands down. And he said, "Thanks for taking my headache away." And he walked away, and I never saw him again. And so ever since then, it's been like a practice with me in my life, and learning more, adapting myself to what people want to get out of this. And it's always about helping someone to feel better. And that's my life. That's all I do. And since then, I've worked with maybe, I don't know, 25 to 35,000 people over the many years. And this is what I do. And this is where my main focus is, my main concern is. And I realize that focus is a key to all of it. So.
Well, I've always viewed healing as being the prime spiritual gift for everybody. And I have a lot of different skills and gifts that I use
Yes.
With clients. And but when people pin me down, I say, look, everything I do with you in some way is healing. Whether it's working with past lives, whether it's working with energy and entity clearing, things like that. It all comes
Sure.
back to healing. And I really like that thing in the Bible where the disciples come to Jesus and say, "Master, there are people out there healing in your name. They're the bad guys. They don't even know us. Maybe they're doing it wrong." And he said, "Are they getting results?" And they said, "Well, yeah." And he says, "Leave them alone."
Yeah, it's helping people feel better. We all have this ability within us. It's innate. Some more, some less, according to the needs of the soul. The soul presents to us what we need to go through in our life. So some are going to have it a little bit more, some are going to have it a little bit less, some aren't going to be able to acknowledge it because they haven't had the experience of it, nor do they have the guidance of what direction to take with it. And this is what I teach people. And what I show people, that they too have a calling for it if it's a part of them, according to their needs. Some people just, need to meet someone like myself or yourself or whatever. And they don't have a need to learn how to do it or to do it with others or whatever. It's not their function, not their purpose in life. They're working on other stuff. And that's fine. But maybe last time, or another time, they will, or they had. And who's the judge?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, I want to jump over into Gnosticism. So I read a lot about the Gnostic Gospels back in the ancient biblical times, and summarizing from my point of view of what they were working on and why they were disliked by the mainline Christians or even the Jewish people at the time was, but especially the new Christians, the newly minted Christians in the first few centuries, was they had a viewpoint that very much they embraced the idea that the kingdom of God is within. And they coached people in meditation practices where they would make connection to the Creator in a very personal form. And they would help guide those people on understanding what that meant and what that looked like, rather than the traditional church model that you have somebody at the front of the church who is much more skilled than you and acts as your interface to the Creator. In the Catholic Church, this is called sacerdotalism. You are not entitled to approach Jesus. You have to go through the Pope, basically, and the Pope and the Pope's priests and bishops and everything. You have to go through them to reach Jesus. Now, as a consolation prize, you can work with Mary. We'll allow you to talk to Mary directly, and or the saints. Will allow the saints to intercede for you, but you aren't qualified to talk to Jesus. And so obviously this put that viewpoint in the early church when it was getting formalized in the second and third centuries was very much contradictory to the feeling of self-experience that you had through Gnosticism back then. And so the Gnostics kind of lost out. They were some of the unappreciated early competitors to Christianity that was formalized by Constantine and became the religion of the Roman Empire. So they were on the outs. They weren't part of the club. And so I'm curious in modern Gnosticism what that experience looks like and what their views are.
My personal take on that is that the kingdom of God is within, as it's written, and we all have the availability to find that Christos, that Son within. Jesus was a man. Then he went through something where he became Jesus Christ. He was Christed. He became the sonship, the Son. Then at the time of the death, transition, he became Christ, the Christ Jesus. Okay. And so we have that within us. He was an example for us. And this is just, something that's available to all people. So for someone to say, oh, you can't do it without me, or you can't, whatever, is kind of, hypocritical and bogus.
Uh-huh.
That person who's saying you can't do it without me, it happened to them. Why can't it happen to someone else? In that respect. As far as there's a lot of forms of Christianity out there, and there's a lot of ownership, and so that just doesn't necessarily bite the bullet, to have people get to know themselves. And that's the whole purpose of so-called other times and places. My understandings, my experience, my teachings say that we've been here hundreds of thousands of times, and we're going to be here hundreds of thousands of times more, unless we destroy our world, of course. But at the same time, the whole purpose of that is to get to know ourselves. So no one has ownership on that, in my perspective. Other people may claim other things, that's fine, and I'm not going to judge. And this is why we're here, though, is to actually get to know ourselves, which leads us to know that Son within, and that we dwell not with some God that's 3 blocks up and 4 to the north, but it's within us, and we have access to that according to how we want to allow ourselves approaching that, and find that within ourselves, that we live with God, not separate from it, and that it's that excuse me, I'm going hoarse, that God figure that's in the clouds somehow or another.
Yeah. Well, one of the things in the Joseph Campbell book I really like is he borrowed a quote from Schopenhauer, something to the effect of, it's a healthy person who keeps killing off his God. And what he meant is, as you continue to grow in your understanding of what the divine looks like and your relationship to the divine, you will continue to erase previous versions because they no longer serve you, and you've advanced past those. And so I really like that viewpoint that this is a flexible thing as your understanding and your spirituality increase.
Yes, and there's tools that we can use to find that divinity within, the godliness within, the old man or old woman upstairs, as I sometimes call it. But it's really within us, and we're searching for it always, regardless whether we're agnostic or the existentialists or whatever. We're still searching for it, and even if we're not conscious of it. And I think the main tool is to find the quietness that's available to us, where we have access to the doorway for it. And it's being quiet or alone, or even being in a forest, or going for a little short walk, or for a short time, or for a longer time. And all this is good, but it's also an exterior silence that we've been experiencing. And there's nothing wrong with that. It helps us in life. It also helps us to breathe slowly and to clear our head for a while. But these things don't last. And then we have to find ourselves needing to go out again and do those things. And the other silence is an interior silence. And this silence is harder to find, but it also lasts much longer. And this isn't for everyone. It's only for those who are looking for a little bit more or a lot more, according to their needs of what they're striving for in their life. And if you're busy in the mind, then that's not a communion, the union between you and your divinity. If you're always busy in the mind, it's finding that peace for that moment to in desiring the peace. And that's when it comes upon us. And say if you're busy in mind, that's not the communion if you're looking for the spirituality. So I say that prayer, which is through no other term that I could think of, is asking for something, or thanking that divinity or that godliness within, or just saying hello to your higher source in whatever you're doing in your life. And this is an actual attempt to commune, to become one with. It's like God, or whatever you might call it, it likes that, and it responds to that. Always. And the more we get in the pattern or sequence of being able to find that joy or that acknowledgement of that, or talking to it in a personal way, that's our attempt to commune. And there's a response from it, from the universe, the universal mind, the universal consciousness, the godliness, or whatever. And this is what God, or whatever you might call it, likes to respond to. So if you find the time to focus on this so-called prayer, any prayer, it diminishes the thoughts and desires which are misleading. And even the chaos, whether it be subtle or simple or exacerbated, and everything becomes still in that moment until we stop the prayer. Then we start thinking again. Understand that the truest, in my perspective, of course, the truest spiritual life is not permanent peace with no worries. That is a total delusional thought. Show me a spiritual person and I'll tell you their faux pas. But just knowing that when we find those moments, that we're purposely in the moment of prayer. Whatever you want to call it. I don't know of another term besides prayer. Prayer is an asking for something, as we commonly know, or prayer is like giving thanks to that divinity within, in my understanding, or sharing something with it. And it loves to be, for us to share with it.
Yeah.
And there again is the response. And it's just knowing that when we find those moments, that we're purposely in the moment of prayer for that short time.
Yeah.
We then know that the divinity loves us in the moments of communion. That's what's important. And this peace and peace of the soul is half the spiritual life. And if you have that peace in the soul, you'll have a greater peace in life.
Wonderful. I don't know about you. One of the things that I do as a spiritual practice is when I'm out in public, say at a food court at a mall or something, and I see children who are obviously disabled. They have challenges. They're in wheelchairs, whatever, or even
Sure.
adult children who obviously are tasked with a chronic condition. I send prayers and healing. It's just
Yes.
second nature to me. And it's like, are they going to get up out of that chair and walk and be normal? Probably not. But there's healing that comes to them and their families in other ways. And it's not up for me to worry about it. I just send the juice and let it do what it's
Exactly.
supposed to do, for the highest and best good.
Exactly. To help that person get on in life and make it easier for them in some way or another.
Yeah.
Totally. I remember many, many years ago, you just reminded me of this. I was doing a workshop in Chicago, and there was one woman in a wheelchair, and her sister was there catering to her in every way possible.
Yeah.
And bringing her pencils and paper and giving her coffee and adjusting her chair, moving her a little bit, whatever. And it was a 2-day class. And I could see that everyone was waiting for me to work with this woman in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And so I just totally refused on the first day. And it was in the middle of the second day. I just impromptu went up to her, and everyone's just really quiet in the room. There's maybe about 75 to 100 people. And wide-eyed, and just staring speechless at me. And I said, "Give me your hand." And she gave me her hand, and I said, "Stand up." And this woman had been paralyzed from her waist down for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And she just looked at me, and I said, "Stand up." And I started bringing her hand up where it would kind of bring her body up as well,
Mm-hmm.
if she put effort into it. And she actually stood up. And then she looked around, and the room is totally silent.
Mm-hmm.
And her sister's looking at me, she's looking at me, everyone in her group's looking at me.
Yeah.
And then she looked around, and she looked at her sister, and she looked at her feet that were standing on the ground,
Uh-huh.
and she yelled out, "No!" And she just went back down. And I realized that this woman, she needed her sister to take care of her.
Yeah.
She, loved being catered to in every way in the world. And I said, "Okay, point taken." And that was it. And
Mm-hmm.
I just went on teaching the class. But everyone saw that it's okay. We have our needs. And sometimes they're egoic,
Mm-hmm.
in various ways. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. There's no right or wrong, good or bad in the mind of God. It's our own perceptions that keep us bound to things or the story going
Mm-hmm.
in our loop. And that's okay. I don't condemn people for the way they are. People can condemn me too for the way that I am,
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. And there was another fellow that heard about me in Illinois many, many years ago.
Uh-huh.
And he lived in Southern Illinois. And so I'm driving from Chicago down to Southern Illinois. He said, at the appropriate day and time, I got there, and a nurse answered, a beautiful home.
Yeah.
And a nurse answered the door, or excuse me, is like a caretaker.
Yeah.
And then the nurse was inside his room, taking care of him, adjusting him, making sure that it was in his
Mhm.
wheelchair. He had a major accident where his spine was really injured bad, and he wasn't able to walk. So I knocked on the door. The nurse answered, let me in his room, and he was in his wheelchair, motorized, which was real fancy back then.
Yeah.
And I asked him about his accident. I had a conversation with him. And I said, okay, let me put my hands on your spine in between the wheelchair and your seat, between you and the seat. And so I did. And I put my other arm across his legs. And I just felt this life force flow through.
Uh-huh.
And he felt it too. And I said, give me your hand. And he did. And I said, stand up. And he started to stand up. And then as soon as he stood up, he said no. And he went back down. And I saw him thinking literally that, oh my God, the insurance money paid for all this. He's going to lose that. He's going to lose his disability. He's going to lose his nurse. He's going to lose his caretaker. He's going to lose his house. So I learned.
Yeah.
I learned well. And it's not often that happens. I never know what's going to happen with anyone.
Sure.
Because it's not me doing it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I trust the godliness, the divinity to take over.
Mm-hmm.
So people have their idiosyncrasies, they have their lives, and I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's difficult to let go of Medicare. It's difficult to let go of the insurances, that's, taking care of them. And even though people say, oh, I'll give you my left arm if something can be done with this. I could have owned a lot of left arms, but at the same time, people don't necessarily want to let go, and it's okay. It really is. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
wonderful. Well, we're going to have to take a little break here. We'll be right back with Mark Earlix.
Hi, I'm Violet Rain, Master Teacher of the Akashic Records series of classes here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you've been interested in the Akashic Records are the life book or the etheric records of everything that we've ever thought, spoken, done, all of our contracts, relationships since we left Source. It is a valuable resource of information that people are able to tap into to get clarity, to get guidance, just to find out why things are the way they are in their life. The Akashic really helps us do that. This is a great series of classes if you're already getting intuitive information, meaning you're either getting visuals or you're hearing things or you just know things or you feel things. This is a great class to step into to amplify the information that you're receiving from a higher level of source versus just your intuition. If you'd like to find out more about my series of classes for the Akashic Records, please check out on our website under classes and look for Akashic Record Certification. I hope to see you in class, or I hope to see you at the center here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.
Well, welcome back to Discover Your Spiritual Gift. And we have our wonderful guest, healer and author, Mark Earlix. And we've been talking about a lot of experiences and what happens when people factor in their thoughts and feelings about the outcome of healing. And while you were talking, it reminded me of a story, and I always love this because I've used it with some of my students occasionally. And long ago, it's one of these things that's an apocryphal story. There was a student working with a teacher, and the student was talking about where he was spiritually and where the teacher was spiritually, and to some degree getting a little full of himself and talking about all the other people out there. And the teacher pointed outside a window, and they faced a brick wall of another building. And he said, "Do you see that wall?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you see all the bricks?" He said, "Yes." "You see how some of the bricks are higher than the others?" And he said, "Yes." And he goes, "Tell me which one you'd remove that's not necessary." And I love that because
I do too.
People are at all different levels of development and understanding and spirituality, but they're all part of a whole. And our responsibility is to work on moving ourselves forward, but also to helping those behind us who need that encouragement, even if they're at a totally different level of understanding, even to the point in some cases of possibly condemning you because they say, well, I go to this particular organization and they say, well, you're doing witchcraft, you're doing magic, you're doing this kind of stuff. And you're saying, no, I'm working with the Creator at a different level. And but you have to just say, well, that's their level of understanding at that point, and we just still have to get along.
Yes. Yeah. And years ago, I guess I was approached by different people that, oh, you can't be doing this, only Jesus or other healers can do this. And I believe that the quote from the Bible is, the kingdom of heaven is within, and that makes us kind of free inside, as long as for me in my life, and I'm not going to judge others by any means, but this ability wants to give and to help someone to feel better, and there's not wrong to do good. And that's pretty much my answer on that, and it's a valid thing. And if people want to be restricted in their thoughts, it's not my place to force anything on anyone ever. And I just continue to do my thing, and that's in that sense to be a servant of that light, and to allow it to do things instead of me, so that I don't get in the way, or it's not a control trip on my part. And my place isn't to control anyone or to influence anyone to do something otherwise. Even if I were to see something that had the potential of happening, if a person is approaching me, or a person is ignoring, I may say something in a conversational mode, but that's the extent of it. And people have to go through their experiences of life as well, in order to get to know themselves. It all goes back to that, And,
well, I work with a lot of people on talking about this stuff, and we talk about what is the difference between using the Creator's energy to work with other people versus using what I'll call substandard energies, darker energies possibly. And I said, the criteria for me are very easy. 2 points. One is, I'm not trying to control other people, and I would never use that energy to harm other people. And I said, if somebody has some type of magical power or dark power, even satanic power, spell casting, and they're doing those things, the energy isn't coming from the Creator, because the Creator's energy just cannot be misused to control or harm other people. So that's a very easy way to differentiate, through intention, what people are doing with the gifts that they have.
Yeah. And, it's really no different. If you go into a darkened room and you flick on a switch, where did the darkness and the shadow go? It's immediately not there even before. And so when you're coming from a place of wanting to share with someone, wanting to give someone, all those things, they kind of disappear, they dissipate, they're non-existent. And so we don't have to worry about coming from a darkened place. If we have intent of wanting to help someone, that's all that matters. That's what that divinity moves through. And that's what changes everything, even for ourselves in our life. If we can go to it and trust it and accept that, oh my gosh, it's there, and I love it, and as long as we're putting our attention there, even the deranged thoughts or controlling thoughts that we have, or the intentional thoughts. They disappear when we're putting our focus into that light. Because it has a consciousness, it has an intelligence that's way beyond ours, and we're trusting it.
Mhm.
That's what matters, I think.
Yeah, and it's also not conditional. I guess I don't have much patience with people who say, yes, I can do this work to help you, to heal you, to whatever, as long as you agree with these precepts. And it's like, no, I'm sorry that the creator didn't hand you those rules. You know, the creator's energy goes wherever it's needed, and wherever it's guided. It's not conditional. It's not, well, we can help you in our church if you profess to these beliefs. And it's like, no, that's once again, we're back to that issue. Are you trying to control them? And to me, that's not an acceptable approach to healing.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It wants to, we all have this voice within us that wants to share with us, to give us guidance, direction, protection, everything.
Mhm.
It's always there. People talk about the angelics, and oh, you have an angel with you. No, we have a menagerie of angels. We have lots of them with us. And when we're everything is just available to us, but our place is to become conscious of it, and we can become conscious of it when we're more silent within ourselves. And that's what we're striving for, is to find that. But we don't know that, so we have all these turmoils and the chaos, whether it be subtle or or extreme. When we just have the ability to stop ourselves for a moment and be objectively observant, then we get to wonder about something. And as we're wondering, then the deeper we go into the recesses of our heart in that wonderment, the more we get to perceive, the more we get to be aware. I won't approach anyone who's not potentially open. I won't approach anyone that doesn't approach me, another percept of that.
Mhm.
And so if someone's interested, they'll be attracted.
Yeah.
And that's just my way. And other people have different ways, I had to learn all this stuff. And I remember many, many years ago, I was in Fort Worth at the time, and I went into a drugstore to get a pack of gum, and there was these two elderly ladies standing at the counter, and the pharmacist was behind the counter, and one was saying, "Can I get some aspirin from you? I got this headache." And the pharmacist says, "Oh yeah, sure." So he went in back, was getting her a couple of aspirin. And so here I am, new at all this stuff. And I said, "You got a headache?" And she and her friend standing there, and she nodded her head. And I said, "Watch this." So I threw my hands on her head, and she's going, "Ah," like that. And her friends, in shock, what's happening there. And I felt my indicators, releasing, and it all took maybe about 5 seconds, 7 seconds. And I took my hands down. I said, "How's your headache?" And she's just, nothing. And the pharmacist came up with the aspirin, and not knowing what transpired there, he just saw everyone just staring at each other, and I'm smiling, staring at her. And she said, "I don't have it." And I just said, "Okay, goodbye." And I left without my gum. But the pharmacist looked at him, and he was just totally perplexed, not knowing the whole situation at all. And so I learned that it wasn't necessarily my place to do these things to these to people.
Yeah.
And it's not wrong to do good, but and in the divinity kind of sets up situations for you to develop your confidence in these things.
Yeah.
And so I've had a lot of developing my confidence in these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I never did anything publicly until maybe about 25 years ago. And I've been doing this since, I don't know, for 48 years now. And I always, in my order, they said, don't, show yourself to the world, and don't do these things for attention. So for many, many years, I didn't.
Yeah.
And I kept it silent until something happened and it became public.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, we're getting towards the end of here. Tell us about your books.
oh my
What
gosh.
books do you have, and what will people find in your books?
Well, the books, the Awaken the Healer Within is an audiobook by Nightingale Conant, and it's 7 CDs, 7 audio CDs. It's also downloadable, and it's just awesome. It's all professionally done by them, and there's even an 8th CD for the workbook that's at the end. It talks about how to work with healing. It talks about the understanding of it. It talks about the whole dynamic of healing in a very simple, clear way that people can comprehend. And that's also very shortly going to be on Amazon listed in the paperback form, if people are interested. The website for that on the Amazon form is being formed now by a publisher, and it's going to be just brought out everywhere on the internet very shortly, in a couple weeks. Then there's on my website, markearlix.com, there's the audio spiritual exercises and meditations. There's 5 of them on my website. And there's also Take My Life, which is a wonderful book. It's very short. It's a philosophical understanding of a talk that I had with an angelic at 2 a.m. And let's see what else. Then The Creator, The Revelation of Healing Yourself and Others. And that was the original book that I put out several years ago. Soon, there's also going to be another book that doesn't have a title yet. I'm waiting to finish the book. And then I have it's listed on the website. There's various workshops I'm offering online. And there's also a healing circle every Tuesday, except for this next Tuesday. Following that, though, there's a free healing circle online through Zoom. People register for it. And there's also a healing clinic that I offer. They're 20-minute appointments. They're not free, but they're not expensive as well. And that's every Thursday from 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And let's see what else is there. There's workshops that I'm offering. The next workshop will be August 9th, and that's Mysteries and Application of Healing. It's a 2-day workshop, an hour and a half a day from 4 to 6. That's listed on the website. People can sign up. And August 16th, I'm giving a 4-day workshop on Zoom, which is another understanding of your anxiety, worry, and fear. The first one I gave on that it was a fantastic response, and I'm expecting the same for this. And that's also listed on the website, or it will be very shortly.
Okay.
So those are the things that are happening. I'm not traveling to Phoenix now because of the heat, and other places around the country. Because of the COVID and stuff like that, I'm usually traveling all over the country, teaching and sharing with people. So
Okay.
that's everything. I also have appointments on Zoom and Skype if people need, and from different countries, and telephone appointments as well, and even FaceTime appointments. It doesn't matter to me. And all that's information on the site, the website, markearlix.com.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been a fascinating discussion. Good luck on all your healing work. It sounds like you're quite involved, and that's great. So
it was enjoying talking with you. I totally loved it.
Well, I wish you the best. And for our listeners, thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon with another fascinating speaker. And we also have several announcements at the end here. You take care, Mark, and thank you.
Thank you. Blessings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Morris. I am the founder and president of Balance and Bliss Energy Healing. I'm a medical intuitive and high vibrational healer. I work with the energy fields. My scope of practice is energy medicine. Anything above and beyond that, for outside care, we'll need to refer you out there. But I do use crystals and aromatherapy in my healings. And I help manage pain. We help move some of the pain out of the body that might be coming from stagnant energy within the field, as well as, we get to the root of the problem with, any emotional trauma and find out what's going on that could be causing more stagnant energy to be left in your aura, which in turn can cause illness and pain and a lot of other issues that we tend to see throughout our day-to-day lives. And then I can be reached by appointment. You can make appointments anytime, any day of the week. I do work Monday through Friday in the evenings from about 5:30 to 8:30. Your first session can be about an hour and a half because we get to know one another. We kind of go through what's going on. And then any session thereafter would run about 50 minutes to an hour. And I can be reached through my website at balanceandblissenergyhealing.com. My email is balanceandblissenergyhealing@gmail.com. And I can also be reached via phone or text at 720-696-0286. And I look forward to any, potential clients. If you have any referrals or if you are in need of any of my services, I look forward to working with you.
Hi, my name is Heather McCormick-Ramey, and I'm a medium and energy healer. I love helping people connect deeply with spiritual messages, with ancestors, and all of that amazing support that is surrounding them. Now, Spirit started working with me at a very young age, and as I created more and more space for those messages to come through, it's been a really life-changing experience. And this is what I offer to my clients. So if you're interested in mediumship, look to book at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. I'm there as a reader, and I also have practitioner hours as an energy healer. With the energy healing, I help my clients bust through limiting beliefs and really live their soul-aligned life. So please reach out to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts if you're interested in learning more and connecting deeply with your soul's purpose and spirit. I look forward to seeing you soon.
I'm Kate Thomason, aka the Joy Architect. And they call me the Joy Architect because I help people build lives based on their joy. I learned from a near soul death what it takes to make a life joyful, because I realized that that was what was missing. And when I brought it all back in, I realized, aha, this is how it works. This is how you make life fun. You bring the soul in, and now I have a method, a process by which people can have this relationship with themselves, their greater self, very quickly. And they find that foundation of fun in their life that they can use to build their life on. I'm a practitioner at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, so they can look on the website under the practitioners there. Or you can find me at my website, KatherineBlakeThomason.com, KathereIne Blake, Blake, Thomason, TOMASSON.com. I'm available by appointment 7 days a week. I work at the center on Fridays from 10 to 5.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.